Okay, so we're getting ready to talk about the three parts of the cell theory, and you can see it here broken down very simply by looking at the three scientists and their contributions. So there we have Schleiden, all plants are made of cells, Schwann, all animals are made of cells, and then Virchow, cells come from other cells. And I do have, and you're going to be able to see this better on your CAMI document, but I do have a memory device to help you remember the three scientists that created the cell theory, and it's the Schwann's truck was Schleiden to Virchow's house. So make sure that you add that to your note sheet. So we are going to go through this cell theory and talk about it. Now, why is this called the cell theory and cell law? Once we go through it, you're going to say, well, I don't know. Why isn't it a law? So the first thing is the cell is the most basic unit of life. So life starts there. Life starts with this cell. Now we could take this cell and we could go downward. We can go to like molecules. We could go to macros, and we could take the macros and we could go down to atoms of different elements. But life will start here with the cell. The cell is the basis of our structure and function. So I've mentioned this before, and this is very important to know. The organization of life. Now, we will go beyond the organism when we get to ecology and talk about populations, community ecosystems, biomes, and biosphere. But for right now, this is our organization of life. Cells make tissues. So a group of cells that work together for the same purpose as a tissue. And then tissues comprise organs. Again, a group of tissues working together, same purpose. And then organs come together to make organ systems. So to look a little bit more closely, we've got this human here, this ice skater, and we have cells. These cells come together in tissues, and then the organ is the stomach. The organ system is the digestive system, and then all of the organ systems working together will make you, the organism. So when we're talking about the basis of structure and function, we're basically saying your anatomy and your physiology. The next one is all organisms are made of one or more cells. So we've got examples of each of them. Now here we have, and I've mentioned these when I mentioned Anton just a few minutes ago, these are unicellular organisms. So they're made up of a single cell. And what that means that all of the functions of life, and we went through the characteristics of life, all those things, all those tasks have to be carried out in a single cell. So instead of having organ systems, they have what are called organelles that pretty much carry out the same functions inside of the cell. Now, our cells, well, this is not us, but that's a dog, we are multicellular. Here's your skin cells. We are multicellular. But inside of us, we also have organelles. Um, but unlike our friend here, the amoeba, like our amoeba sisters, we have organ systems. So our cells make tissues, which make organ systems that allow us to function. They have to do all of that on a very small scale basis inside of the cell. Now, what you're looking at here, we have a couple of different types of cells here. So something we're going to talk about pretty soon. We have prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells are bacteria. Eukaryotic cells are everything else. And one of the big distinguishing differences between those two is the presence of a nucleus. So that dark spot, that dark spot. Lots of spots here. There's the spot on this euglena. Maybe that's their nucleus. And if you look at the bacterium, nope, not there. Now these guys, I mentioned them, the euglena, the paramecium, and the amoeba, those are in a kingdom called Protista, and they can be classified about whether they are animal-like, plant-like, or fungus-like. So they're not plants, animals, or fungus, but they have characteristics like plants, like animals, or like a fungus. And then the third part of the cell theory is Rudolf Virchow's baby. All cells come from pre-existing cells, so omnis cellula e cellula. And when we talk about this, we've already talked about spontaneous generation, so we know that organisms have to come from other organisms, so that means that cells have to come from other cells. I've got a little quote here from Louis Pasteur because we know his significance to this process of disproving spontaneous generation and the origin of organisms and ultimately the origin of cells. But when we talk about this, we're going to go beyond and we're going to look at two different types of cell divisions. One is mitosis. This is how you make extra copies of somatic cells or body cells. So if you've got a paper cut, if you have muscle tissue damage, this is how you replace those. As you grow, this is how you replace those cells. You replace those cells or you add more cells is by going through mitosis. And then there's another type of cell division, meiosis, or I like to say meiosis. This is the process of making gametes or making egg and sperm cells. So we will talk about the two types of divisions, but you see all of the new cells, whether or not they are identical or different, they come from original precursor cells.